Today is a holiday, so it's an easy one right here in the country. Welcome on board. My name is Linda Alela. Glad to always have you joining me every other morning, and equally inviting you to be part and parcel of the show right from now all the way to 9 a.m. It is that time that I open my phone calls and I open my SMS, short tag, and I also open my social media platforms just so you would drop us a message and tell us what it is that you want us to play you in terms of music. We'll be having lots of music and entertainment right here. So welcome. And let's start off with what it is that has been prepared by my team. I update you on news that we cross over to the newspaper review. The death toll from the ongoing tribal clashes in Olpusimoru area has risen to 2 after another person was killed in the area. And this even as locals have started accusing police of using excessive force on them, as Nanok Lauren reports.
In the recent violence, residents of Olpusimoru area confronted police officers as violence erupted in the area. The death toll has now risen to 2 after another person was killed while 5 others were injured, leaving them with bullets in their bodies. Led by member of County Assembly Rebecca Nanyu, the residents are urging the Independent Police Oversight Authority IPOA to investigate the incidents and take action against the officers.
Tungependa kuuliza mama ambaye ndiye anachea IPOA, tunataka ukuje Narok kwa sababu wale watoto ambao walikufa jana ni vijana wachanga, wamewacha jamii ndogo, familia ndogo, watoto wachanga. Wewe ni mama na unasikia uchungu kama mama. Tunataka wewe mwenyewe uje Narok kufanya hiyo investigations kwa sababu kuna evidence ya kutosha ya kwamba polisi walitumia nguvu jana kunyanyaza watu.
Want to ask the county commissioner to sack and the security operators to sack all grassroots commanders from Olokurto, Pusmoru, who made orders for shooting.
The police, through the regional coordinator, have pledged to crack down on instigators of violence in the area. A teenage boy who was herding cattle in Olmariko area was shot and wounded by suspected cattle rustlers.
We call on the county commissioner, who is the head of security of this county, to take immediate action. Lack of immediate action will be working against us. You need to bring these policemen to book for assault, for murder.
Residents are now imploring the county commissioner to provide a long-lasting solution. Nanok Lauren, TV 47.
All right, now China, Canada, Ethiopia and Rwanda are among 11 countries that will be allowed to resume international flights to Kenya from Saturday this week, while announcing the protocols for resumption on international flights in the country. Transport CS James Macharia has said that the countries cleared have shown a decline in COVID-19 cases with limited transmission.
As the government prepares for the resumption of international flights into and out of the country on Saturday this week, the Ministry of Transport has issued protocols to be followed. Transport Cabinet Secretary James Macharia says only 11 countries have been cleared to fly into the country. They include China, Canada, South Korea, Japan, Zimbabwe, Ethiopia, Switzerland, Uganda, Rwanda, Namibia and Morocco.
Let me say this is not a blanket approval. And so we do have initially a list of countries from which passengers will be allowed. This will be a list which will be reviewed on an ongoing basis, because you know this issue about COVID is not static. It gets better, it gets worse. So whereas we have an initial list here, by tomorrow we shall review that list depending on circumstances on the ground when we do the global mapping of the trend and intensity of the coronavirus.
All passengers arriving into the country with PCR symptoms will be exempted from quarantine. Passenger tickets for clearance will be allowed to proceed to their hotels or residence, while passengers departing after curfew with valid air tickets and boarding passes will be allowed to proceed to destinations or departure airports. Drivers picking or dropping passengers past curfew hours at the airport will have to show evidence. Passengers departing after curfew with valid air tickets and boarding passes will also be allowed to proceed to destination or departure airport. Air operators will have to provide guidance materials for passengers on preventative measures on board. Where physical distancing is not guaranteed, the crew must make reminder announcements. Ministry of Transport says it is reviewing timing of flights to facilitate physical distancing at the flights. The Ministry of Transport and Infrastructure, in collaboration with Airport Authority, will also review the timing of flights to facilitate physical distancing at the airport.
In terms of the protocol, number 2 of what we are going to highlight, for those passengers traveling out of the country, meaning you and me, they'll be required to abide by the particular travel, health, and COVID-19 related requirements of the destination country. So before you travel, make sure that you know where you're going, what that country expects. We also like to put some heavy responsibility on the airlines. Before you board your passengers, just like you check on the visa requirements, just make sure that your passengers comply with the requirements of where they're going.
At least 5 international companies have confirmed to resume their flights into the country. The 5 are Qatar Airways, British Airways, KLM, Emirates and Air France, according to Tourism Cabinet Secretary Najib Balala.
Now, it is compulsory for Kenyans to put, or if it is compulsory for Kenyans to put on a mask, whenever they are in public places, as the government strives to keep a surge in COVID-19 infections at bay. This has led to all manner of mask innovations, raising questions on their efficiency at preventing COVID-19 transmissions. And as David Muthoka reports, is the mask you wear safe for you?
How safe is your mask? How confident are you that it guarantees you absolute protection from the COVID-19 disease? Could some of us be doing it all wrong?
Our quest to find out the various types of masks Kenyans are donning took us to some of Nairobi's busiest streets. Each Kenyan who passed by had their mask in tow, from the prestigious KN95 mask to the common surgical mask to the fashionable sponge and cloth masks, in adherence to government's directive to all Kenyans to ensure they put on a mask whenever in a public place. But the variety is raising concern on the efficiency of these masks at keeping COVID-19 at bay. And with entrepreneurs competing to sell their product, cheaper masks made from all manner of material are making inroads into the market. Now surgical masks are even going for as little as 20 shillings, an interesting and significant drop of 80 shillings. A couple of months ago, the same mask was going for 100 shillings. The drop in price reflecting the stiff competition in the masks business. And for some of the Kenyans oblivious of how safe their masks are, what matters is the fashion statement they send to the rest of the public. For others, putting on a mask is a security measure over a health initiative.
Sioni kizuia kitu yote. Juu hata unakuta mask zingine umenunua ndio, lakini hata ukivaa huwezi hata breathe. So lazima tu utahang ndo ukitembea ukiwe sawa.
Studies revealed that the KN95 mask offers the strongest protection with a 95% success rate in keeping coronavirus at bay. The surgical mask, synonymous with medical use, has an equal 95% efficiency rate, as well as the FFP1 mask. However, the cloth and sponge mask have a 0% efficiency rate at keeping viruses at bay, raising concern on the safety of most Kenyans who rely on the two to prevent them against COVID-19 infections. Health CAS Dr. Rashid Aman, however, insists that for effective prevention of spread of COVID-19, wearing of masks ought to be coupled with social distancing. Not even the best of masks can guarantee zero spread of the virus.
Masks should not be seen in isolation. Wearing a mask alone is not sufficient to protect you. Coupling wearing of the mask with maintaining the distance is the key thing.
This as Health Director General Dr. Patrick Amoth says the government is set to standardize local production of masks through the Kenya Bureau of Standards KEBS to boost their efficiency and quality.
But now that the cloth masks are also in fashion, we are working with Kenya Bureau of Standards to ensure that we have at least a semblance of standard, even if it is for our own local use.
The strength of the fight against COVID-19 chain primarily depends on the masks link. One wrong move might backtrack strides the government has made in keeping the nation safe. David Muthoka, TV47.
All right, now, meanwhile, the Ministry of Health has defended against claims of misappropriation of COVID-19 funds. Chief Administrative Secretary in the ministry, that is Dr. Rashid Aman, says that the investigating authorities are free to investigate the expenditure of the funds.
I think I can't respond to that any more than simply say that government systems have a way of monitoring utilization of funds. We have several oversight bodies that are responsible for monitoring the use of those funds. And I do not know the report that you refer to. I haven't seen that article, but I think we will leave it to the proper agencies to answer that question and pose that question if they so feel that there is a need to do so.
In terms of the number of cases, today we have 1,275 Kenyans admitted in various hospitals throughout the Republic. Out of these, 56 are in ICU setting. 34 are on ventilatory support, meaning that a machine is breathing on their behalf because they have a serious COVID infection and their lungs are not functioning optimally. And then 20 are on supplemental oxygen support, meaning they are in ICU, but with additional oxygen we give them, they can be able to maintain their saturation and provide enough oxygen for their bodies to function optimally. 2 are on observation in ICU, meaning they have come from the very critical to oxygen supplementation, but basically we are just observing them to see whether they can now move from ICU to HDU and the ordinary ward.
Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha has announced that teachers employed by schools' boards of management will receive their monthly salaries. This in a bid to cushion them from the COVID-19 effects. Meanwhile, the universities and tertiary institutions will be opened next year, with the government saying very few have complied with the COVID-19 measures, as Andrin Kilimi now reports.
Remember, when you are learning about
approximately 120,000 teachers employed by schools' boards of management have a reason to smile after the government promised to pay their salaries after months of suffering. Many schools have not been paying teachers employed by the boards, while their colleagues under the Teachers Service Commission continue to earn their monthly salaries, despite the schools being closed.
Even though usually BOM teachers are not usually paid directly from the ministry. They are employed by the Board of Management from other incomes that they generate. The President in his wisdom has directed that money be made available for this function, and it is not just for the BOM teachers. We shall also ensure that money for utilities are released, money for maintenance are released, and all other stuff.
In a consultative meeting with education stakeholders, Professor George Magoha launched a community-based learning that will require teachers to deal with learners within their locality without having to move from one place to another.
The idea is small communities where the teacher teaches in his own local community. The way Kenyans behave, you'll find a good teacher attracts people from far. If that is found, there will be a consequence.
Teachers need to engage learners meaningfully using innovative approaches. And as we continue in the situation that we are in, now more than ever, our teachers need to be innovative so that we can also keep our learners positively engaged.
And as the country grapples with the novel coronavirus, it is now clear that all learning institutions, including universities and technical centers, will remain shut until 2021.
Magoha further urged university school heads to continue offering virtual learning, examinations and virtual graduations.
Andrine Kilemi for TV 47.
Now, PCEA Secretary General Reverend Peter Kania, who died of COVID-19, has been laid to rest in Kikuyu, Kiambu County, and Health CS Mutahi Kagwe being in attendance. Very few Ministry of Health guidelines were observed, as Zainab Mohammed reports.
This was the final journey of the late Reverend Peter Kania Kariuki, who was the Secretary General of PCEA Church. Despite the government directives which allowed only a few people to attend the burial ceremony, here the directives were not followed even after Kania died of COVID-19. Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe and Deputy President William Ruto were among those in attendance. Speaking during the ceremony, Deputy President William Ruto urged Kenyans to adhere to government directives to curb the spread of COVID-19 in the country, with over 19,000 cases reported by Thursday.
Let us not look for who to blame. Let us not point fingers. Let us take up our responsibility individually as citizens to ensure that we do not lose life and to ensure that we minimize infections by adhering to the protocols that have been issued by the government of Kenya through the Ministry of Health.
Despite Deputy President William Ruto attending the burial, Cabinet Secretary for Health Mutahi Kagwe represented President Uhuru Kenyatta, who in his condolences message, the president remembered Kania as a humble and a God-fearing man.
I recall his action-oriented gospel in which, during this period of COVID-19 pandemic, he came up with the Adopt a Family initiative. Through this initiative, the PCEA faithful helped feed over 32,000 families throughout East Africa in the months of April and May.
Peter Kania is among the 325 people who have succumbed to coronavirus in the country since the first case of coronavirus was reported in the country on March this year.
All right, welcome back, and time for us to go to the newspapers. Thank you so much, Andrine, for that story, and may his soul rest in eternal peace. Now let's speak the newspapers of the day. We have the Daily Nation and the Standard newspaper. And this morning we start off with the Daily Nation, and later on we'll come to what it is that has been captured on the Standard newspaper. And joining me to expound more on this is Edwin Kigoli, who's a youth leader. Good morning, Edwin.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you as well.
I know it's a holiday. You'd have expected to, enjoy yourself, but all the same, it's been a cool enjoyment anyway for most of the people who are not in session, courtesy of COVID-19. I know.
Oh yes.
Some of us do not know what a holiday looks like.
Yeah, that's why you have to serve the public, and you have to keep informing people.
True. All right, now let's go straight to it, and we start off with the Daily Nation as the biggest story right here. Our children to learn under trees. This is according to Magoha, and communal classes under trees, open spaces, and social halls to start in September. And teachers to offer free lessons will be identified by local chiefs and Nyumba Kumi leaders, and challenges that are bound for the new proposal, even as ministry moves to develop the guidelines. And we do not know whether this is going to be successful or not. Captured extensively on page 2 of the Daily Nation. Standard 7 pupils at Dunga Primary, rare a picture there, just trying to paint a picture of, what it would be like learning under the trees. Is this going forward or going backward? Or is it the only solution that we have as at now, Kigoli?
Well, my take on this is as follows. You see, we are in a very unprecedented time. These students are facing a challenge they've never faced before. I was discussing yesterday with my colleague about the situation that is prevailing. And when you look around the globe, it is not just about Kenya. And you know, it's not like Professor Magoha directed exactly to sit under trees to learn. But what he meant, you know, we need to interrogate the intention. The intent. The intention is to keep these students learning so that when they come back to school, they are not going back to square zero. We understand the infrastructural challenges that our public institutions are facing. And for teachers to even just give it up to themselves to come out and, you know, try to offer these lectures to students, it's something that is very noble. But what this thing is exposing again is the deep inequality that exists between, you know, well-established, you know, institutions and students. Because claims have been there that many students are unable to access even internet so that they can follow on, you know, online teaching, which is something that maybe the government needs to address seriously, so that public students are also given a chance, just like those in private institutions that are, you know, having infrastructure and are able to cope during this difficult time. Because you want to think about the students, candidates, and what they are feeling and, you know, what they are going through. It's really tough for them, and I empathize and sympathize with them and their parents, the anguish and, you know, frustration they've been.
All right, and now, of course, one would want to ask, is it officially saying that, well, if this resumes or if this starts in September, this is a polite way of telling us that we're opening schools, but anyway, the guidelines continue to be awarded to us. When we look at his move to say that, again, the technical schools, the campuses will not reopen because they have not met the standards, one would want to ask, I mean, this was bound to happen probably, looking from afar. Why is it that the Ministry of Education decided otherwise, to say that, you know what, there's a loophole or there's an opening for them to reopen in the event that they prepare? Were they even, you know, capable of proceeding to prepare sincerely? Cannot hear you. Hold it right there. I'm not able to get Edwin. Much better, yes.
Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. You see, you cannot gamble with the life of a human being. That life is irreplaceable. And COVID, you know, like staying out of campus is not as greater as risking the lives of, you know, students to go back to campus. If they have not complied with, you know, the safety standards and regulations, then there is no point risking the lives of these students, because they rather sacrifice right now for tomorrow. And what we need to do is to strictly adhere to the protocols and guidelines that the Ministry of Health has given. Look at what WHO has also said. And what we need to do is we can sacrifice right now and keep our precious lives for study in January, because we should not be in a rush to, you know, recall students back to classes. Yet we've not put up, you know, enough safety regulations and measures to ensure their lives. Because what if you recall them and something happens? You know, somebody can go to court and sue you, and of course you'll have to compensate. So you're also looking at a broader spectrum of issues, like what if? So if those questions are not satisfactorily answered, then there is no point recalling students to classes. So there shouldn't be panic. Look at what has happened to our candidates. You know, what are they going through right now? We want to look at, could it have been possible for them to be recalled? Like, is it cast on stone they must sit for the exams this year? If there is such a threat on their lives, then there is no point risking their lives. So we can make do with the sacrifices we are going through for us, to remain healthy and safe, so that we also flatten the curve, which is the ultimate goal. Flattening this curve, containing this dreadful virus is the key to going back to normalcy.
All right, extensively captured on page 2 of the Daily Nation. But also another story on the front page is that Raila betrayed us at our time of need, claim members of parliament. And lawmakers from Coast Region accused ODM leader and party, that is, of throwing them under the bus on revenue law and parliament jobs. And it is tough. You look at the Standard newspaper, you find that is also one of the stories that is on the front page. And this time around, they're talking about the rebellion, in Uhuru and Raila strongholds. So what do you make of the utterances of the Coast Region yesterday?
What comes to mind sharply is what happened when President Kibaki gave Raila the mandate and responsibility of evicting people from the Mau. And that is an issue that cost Raila politically.
Yeah.
And listening to the sentiments by a section of the Coast leaders, and then it's likely not to be any different from that. Because, you see, Prime Minister Raila Odinga said, back that formula, and he did not offer a detailed explanation as to, what. Because now we are hoping on the BBI, which is still not there. It's not promised, it's not guaranteed. It's something that is still in the pipeline. But what we are looking at right now, a practical measure is the system. This criteria, the third generation criteria, is already here with us. So if it is passed, then coastal counties are going to lose billions of shillings. And that is not going down well with them. And you saw what he said. I don't know how consultative was their meeting, but those were MPs. I don't know what the governors say. Raila controls Mombasa significantly. And what I would say is this. Raila Odinga should also be very careful, very calculating as to how he's balancing this formula thing, because it can also come again to cost him politically. And Mombasa is such a key region for him, very, very key. So he needs to weigh his options so that when this formula is being passed, against what is the fallback plan? He needs to talk to this. He should not ignore the calls by the MPs who was speaking yesterday, because it is very, very important for him to have a sit down, and discuss what is the need for cost. If this formula is passed, are they going to lose this money as the formula is proposing? And then you look at what senators were arguing in the Senate, saying even 1 man, 1 shilling is not reflected in what the formula is proposing. A county like Nairobi should receive much more. A county, and other counties should receive much more against what they are receiving right now. So many of them say the formula is a fallacy. The formula is not, accurate. So those questions are perhaps ones that maybe now Senate can invite professional bodies so that they give submissions as the exactness of allocation, so that we get this thing right. We do not, now receive threats. If you don't give us this, BBI is dead. And I remember when we were talking about this thing of BBI, the towering thing that is coming is that Central Kenya is saying, if this formula is passed, we are in. Mombasa is saying, if this formula is passed, we are out. So you see, now balancing those political demands becomes a problem.
And in that case, where does it place President Uhuru Kenyatta? Because, while he might say that he's not interested in getting into power, clearly also there's some interest. I mean, based on the arguments that we've had on ground, and these people who talk of him being a young person and would not exit the stage just anyhowly, in a way are the very same people who came up with these talks of a referendum. And clearly the BBI is all about a referendum. So what does it mean for President Uhuru Kenyatta too, politically?
Well, I was most happy to notice that the Senate can be very courageous enough to defy President Kenyatta and Raila Odinga. because most of the times Parliament has been a puppet of the executive. Parliament succumbs to the whims and directions of the executive, which sometimes waters down the authority and independence of Parliament. You see, the three arms of government are independent, but somehow interdependent as well, because mostly executive has what the other two arms of government need. So sometimes you find Parliament and judiciary playing into the demands of the executive. But we need a Parliament that can stand on its own. We need Parliament that can take decisions that are based in the interest of the people. Parliament that can say, Your Excellency, sir, we appreciate your position on this. However, we say that it is not the best thing to do. That way, members of Parliament are exercising their independence and authority. So I see no problem in that. What I clearly see is, now the Senate stepping up and saying, when it comes to counties, we are going to do as we are expected to do. But again, somebody argues that some of the senators who are adamant are intending to run for governor. So when they want to go for governor, when the resources are there and they are able to serve people very well.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that again is double standards, because we took them there to serve us, whether or not they are interested in running or not, what they need to do is to serve us, to give us service delivery, so that we are feeling why we elected them. But again, if it is on threats and intimidations and do this or BBI is dead, that exposes the precarious position the BBI is in. Maybe you can wake up tomorrow and the dynamics have shifted, or the formula passes and then we start to experience ghost laws on BBI, and now there'll be resentment, people will start to withdraw and we might go back. You look at how the economy has been damaged. The least thing we need right now are divisions, as we experienced just after 2017 general elections. So what we need is a cohesive country, a country that focuses on what needs to be done. When we are releasing a formula, and then the formula must be very accurate and comprehensive, so that nobody says I'm losing and another says I'm gaining, which shouldn't be the case. And then you look at the issue of equalization fund. We need these funds to be very, very effective, so that when these counties, like right now, they are seeing we are losing, then somebody needs to tell them, what about the equalization fund? Because we've been having claims that the equalization fund is not working as it should, is not providing that lease of life as it is enshrined in the Constitution. So if also we can handle the issue of equalization fund, then we'll be moving forward greatly and authoritatively as a country.
All right, well, we'll be delving deep into that as we know the story unfolds. We are waiting to see what Senate will proceed to do when it comes to Tuesday. But that aside, we take a look at other stories that have been captured on page 3 of the Daily Nation. That one of CS Magoha, I think we've talked about, and also one on matters education. Parents win as court orders school to slash fees by 20%, and that is something that is probably a sigh of relief and good message for many. But coming to page 3, new rules out for smoky vending, and briefly on this one, these rules that come in, day out, and here we are talking about enjoying your smoky pasua, so to speak. A popular snack in Kenya is no longer going to be as easy as, applying tomato ketchup and eating. I mean, there are new restrictions that are coming on board in regards to the same. And 1.5 million is the minimum distance recommended between two people in the war. Sorry, that is, there's a maximum, yes, of coronavirus. It is one of the guidelines issued by the Ministry of Health. And I guess I lost it on that one, but anyway, the vendors should ensure that no consumption is done in their premises, should only be on takeaway basis. Let me tell you something. Let me now speak in Swahili so it makes sense. Wale watu wa smoky pasua and mayai, you know the trick is that they always want you to eat when you're there, because when they know very well that one is never enough. Once you take one, kama umesimama hapa, man, you will want another one and another one and another one. So imagine take away. Kama ni moja, watakula hasara namna gani?
Well, it's interesting somehow, you know, how the ministry releases some guidelines.
Yeah.
And you see, there is contact, like it or not, there is contact.
Yeah.
You know, because you have to order this smoky, you have to give out money which this person is going to receive, and they don't have gloves, they don't have anything of protective on their hands.
Yeah.
They're going to prepare that smoky thing and then hand it over to you. So whether the distance is there is contact. You see, that is the baseline. There is contact. If in any case, you know, the distancing on smokies is not the most effective way. You know, here we can now just operate on trust. But these are also small Kenyans, small businesses that are running. Because again, if you send them out of the market, then what is going to happen of them? So we can always, you know, ask them to make sure they are putting on masks, and the customers are also putting on masks, so that you know, at least there is that, you know, protection, so that business can still go on. You know, these are tough times, and we need to adapt to tougher measures. So I really empathize, but again, what do we do? The virus is here, and the stringency of guidelines, sometimes we just have to comply with them. So what do we do?
My director says hakuna hapo sasa umetupanga kwa sababu hakuna vile customer anaweza vaa mask akikula smoky. But anyway, I guess just based on what the government says, itakuwa a takeaway. There's no question about that. Yeah, of course. When you want to eat, you lower your mask, but after maybe you left. Anyway, that aside, but okay, well, if it is going to come in handy towards ensuring that we are protected, then so be it. Worse it would have been if they were told not to sell at all, because we know very many people make a kill and a living out of that. So fate for 41 JAC nominees in limbo as court throws out lawyers' case. Uhuru declined to approve appointments, earning criticism from Chief Justice David Maraga. So the row between Chief Justice David Maraga and the President has now taken a new twist after the High Court declined to make a decision that would have enabled the 41 judges at the center of the fight to assume office. I don't know whether you've been following up on this, but you know, one, it has taken so much so of a while. Two, this is one thing that came out to clearly paint the picture of what things are between the executive and the judiciary, key arms of government that are supposed to be here working hand towards ensuring that things are moving very well. And it looks like, again, this will extend to the level of the legislature.
Well, it's sad about what is happening, and right now it's months on since the 41 judges were submitted to the president for appointment. The president had advised that about 5 judges had some, you know, integrity questions. But again, the question is, when these judges were vetted, why didn't this evidence surface? You know, again, these are serving judges. If indeed their integrity is in question, then the Attorney General should, you know, advise on how these judges, the process of, you know, maybe forming a tribunal can begin, so that you know, the matters are inquired into and reported on, so that we Kenyans are informed, like what is it, which judge and what allegations are leveled against them, so that we do not, you know, hamper the wheels of justice from delivering. And we will always go back to what President said about fixing the judiciary, which right now he can't run away from it, because it is something that is in the public domain, and people say now he's fixing the judiciary. You know, we've seen about the, you know, the budgetary cuts now, the judges. If 5 of them are having integrity questions, then what about the others? Should the 5 limit or bar the appointment of the others? But again, Chief Justice comes out to say that all the 41 judges submitted for appointment must be appointed, all of them than some of them. So you see, there is a tug of war and push and pull between executive and the judiciary, which is not healthy and helpful for delivery of justice. Because look at the backlog in our courts right now. Cases are piling up, and the number of judges we are having are very, very few, cannot handle the cases. The Chief Justice made a serious allegation that if you file a case in the land court right now, the likeliest of it to be had is maybe in a year or two to come, which is very worrying, which is very, very worrying and defeating the purpose of timely and expeditious in the judicial system. So what we need to do is be true to ourselves, be true to the Constitution of Kenya. Let the president look into these matters seriously, and the bad blood, the supposed bad blood between him and the Chief Justice really is not serving any public interest. So we just need to be honest with ourselves, and if let the president just appoint these judges. If anything else, there are tribunals to be formed, these matters looked into, so that the veracity of them are ascertained.
All right. Okay, well, we wait to see what will happen in regards to the same. And crossing over to page 4 and 5 of the Daily Nation, we've captured this story on Raila betrayal to coast voters, and also this one on counties that will suffer in a revenue sharing dispute. But one also story that is here, LSK and rights group opposed Matiang'i's order, and this is the law, that is the Law Society of Kenya and human rights groups have opposed a directive by Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i asking the police not to implement court orders that lack the nod of the Attorney General. LSK President Helton Harvey yesterday said that the order issued by Matiang'i went against the principle of separation of powers as stipulated in the Constitution, a position supported by Transparency International as well as the International Center for Policing and Oversight. These units, of course, opposing that one. This also amid numerous cases of police brutality that are coming up, and it's quite unfortunate that this is coming up at this particular time. I mean, also painting a picture of how much there are huge differences within these units. Yesterday, we also had a story where the DCI and the DPP were not in nods in regards to some proposals of laws that have been presented. DCI arguing that these are against the laws that are are there in existence, while DPP says it is incumbent upon them and within their power to proceed and come up with such measures that equally are going to come in handy to address the aspect of corruption. We wait to see whether indeed that will happen. We've also talked about the aspect of COVID-19, crisis looming as infections, deaths increase. An increase in patient number and spread has made contact tracing impossible. I think that is one thing that we probably do not want to expound some more, or maybe just allow you to say, what do you make of the battles that we're going on right now as we're dealing with COVID-19? I know you've touched on that briefly on matters, the smoky vendors, but, well, again, I'll allow you to equally say this, especially when it comes to the aspect of contact tracing. Just how possible is it, knowing very well that we're out here moving, we come to the office, we meet different people? How much of contact tracing can we do to get a hold of these people?
Well, at the moment, we've not had an elaborate, contact tracing system like it is happening in some countries, like Japan, they are using in terms of tracing people, tracking down infection, contact. But you see, we are moving from the word go. We are moving around, going to town, coming back, interacting with so many people. You don't know the public vehicle you've just used, who used just before you. So it's a very tricky situation that we are in as a country, because systems must go on, lives must run, So it's a very, very tricky balance. That's why the ministry says, at least make sure your mask is on, because you never know. You see, this virus is invisible. You hardly can tell that this person is having or not. Mm-hmm. So it's always good for us to observe the Ministry of Health guidelines and And in terms of infections, sorry, you see, when this virus came in this country, the government made quarantine look like punitive. The government approached this issue from a combative perspective. So many citizens were, staying away. They were shying away because quarantine looked almost similar to, being taken to jail. So many people shied off, and the cost involved. They're told when you go to quarantine, you have to cater for yourself. So somebody says, like, if I go to quarantine, then I have to spend quite a lot of money, maybe $20 to $40. Somebody says, I don't have that kind of money. I rather stay away and handle this thing by myself. So the approach from the word go was wrong. Because when you feel this thing is punitive, people will tend to coil away. And when you coil away, then we are not winning. We are defeating the purpose. Again, the government came in and said, now quarantine is free. Now that was mitigation, reactionary. The message was out there, people staying away. But again, when we are moving around, we also must exercise caution. Walk into villages, into these, slum areas, and even these other areas. You'll find many people are not even putting on masks. They are walking around, interacting, and you wonder if someone or one of them had a virus. And then it's likely that entire cycle is going to infect people, because what the government wants is to be done with this virus once and for all. The government doesn't want it to go on. And our health system is not strong enough to absorb a surge in the number of cases. So if these numbers continue to increase, then we are likely to have our ministry or our health system being overrun. And when it is overrun and we have critical conditions or situations, it becomes now even more tougher. County governments are not prepared to the last bit. County governments are still claiming they are yet to receive money. Right now we should not be hearing about those cases, because it is a very critical moment in our history as a country.
Right.
And we need to empower these counties so that nobody will say, I experienced these challenges because I didn't have support that I needed. So we need to just do what is right and, disburse the funds so that counties can prepare adequately.
Okay, ethnic clashes. This is page 12 of the Daily Nation. In Morishoni and Oli Posimoro, kill 5 and injure 25. So the death toll has risen to 5. It's pretty much unfortunate that we're still talking about this. Land issues, ethnic clashes, tithed at times, in regards to, just cohabiting together of different communities or different, villages. Is this first of all a time that we're supposed to be talking about this? And just what ailed the Kapedo Triangle that we're not able to just get a point where, all these villages will stay together in unity?
This is a very sad topic to discuss, and land issues in this country have always been very emotive. And we only coexist to an extent that politics has not come. Because whenever, let me start it off this way. Whenever we go into elections, that ethnic animosity is always awakened. We tend to tolerate less about each other. We cannot, just coexist as Kenyans. We see each other from tribal lens, which is very counterproductive. It is unfortunate what is happening right now. At a time when we are battling a virus that is so deadly, we still see other communities, engage in ethnic clashes, which is very, very bad, very sad as a country. And we've seen this in Molo, we've seen this, in many other places, which is very, very sad. So we need to learn to coexist as a country. We need to tolerate each other, so that it doesn't matter where you come from. I can settle in any place in this country without worrying for my life or my properties when elections come or not. so that, because you look at our constitution, it recognizes, unity in diversity. Our ethnicity is enshrined in our constitution, and the constitution says we need to be proud of it. You look at the preamble of our constitution, but what we do is right opposite of what the constitution says. So it is sad, and maybe also we need security agencies to move in with speed and contain these ethnic clashes. And I'm happy Rift Valley Regional Commissioner Natembeya has been doing a tremendous job in terms of quelling these clashes, and he continues to do a great job, a tremendous job. He's a tremendous guy. So we learn to coexist as a country, but again, it also exposes something about NCIC, the effectiveness of this commission. Do we really still need this commission? Because some Kenyans would say this commission is as toothless as anybody can think. This commission even doesn't understand its mandate, because why even should we be having that commission in the first place? It is because we are still divided along ethnic lines. But again, how effective is NCIC? You only hear them when a politician has said something that they think or believe is hate speech, and then after that you will not hear about them again, which exposes something about them. Are they aware of what they need to do? Are they proactive, or they wait for something to happen and then they do that? That means being reactive, which is not adding any value.
And we cross over to a different story on the Standard newspaper, which is actually what has not been captured on the Daily Nation. That's why I think it's important that we talk about it. And it is on page 5 of the Standard newspaper. New police station to tame City Hall MCAs. The Nairobi tussle, Kigoli, doesn't it disappoint you as a youth, looking at how things are happening down there? Most of the leaders actually are youthful leaders. You saw what happened to Patricia Mutheu. And now, talking of a new police station, just how this best at this office is allowed to proceed and ensure that there is law and order, if whatever it is that happened yesterday or the day before yesterday was condemned to that level.
This is disheartening, because we are talking about the capital city of this country. Mm-hmm. And you see, it is not just what is happening right now.
Yeah.
We need to interrogate the genesis. The solution after Kidero, one would say, was almost as wrong from the start.
Yeah.
When you get it right at the top, and then the body is going to get it right. And the battle for Nairobi, one, the governor giving up 4 key functions or thereabout to NMS. What does that expose about the governor? That he's unable to deliver for the people of Nairobi. In advanced economies, then His Excellency Governor Sonko should have resigned from office, because you're saying, I'm unable to deliver on these key functions as governor, so I can donate my authority or submit my authority to you, that you run the city on my behalf. I draw a salary and then you run. That does not make any sense whatsoever. And Sonko survived impeachment, maybe because the president doesn't want politics in Nairobi right now. He doesn't want a campaign mood in Nairobi right now, because again, that would spill into something else. And then what the MCAs are doing right now should not be the case. We have laws, we have policies, we have regulations, we have a clear roadmap on what should be happening. It is not about the clerk, it's not about what. These MCAs are not even fighting for the people. They are fighting because of the billions that are there to be controlled. They are fighting for their interest. They don't want to serve the people, they want to serve their interests. So if we get it right in terms of electing leaders, and my challenge to young people is this: we have the numbers, but we do not realize the substance in our numbers. If we continue allow these politicians to be, swindling us with a few coins here and there, and then we make bad decisions. This is what happens. When you elect bad leaders into leadership, you do not expect miracles to happen for the better. You expect drama, fracas, fuss, confusion. And that is what is happening right now. Maybe we have a chance to get it right when elections come. Let us elect leaders that can deliver for the people, regardless of their, political affiliations, who can objectively handle matters. So Nairobi needs to be orderly, needs to be, contained. Putting their police station is not bad. It's for the security purposes. But again, the informing reason to mount a police station at City Hall is the thing that now we are looking at and saying, well, this is unfortunate. Why should a police station be brought here because of this? MCAs are not orderly. Then what do they expect of the common mwananchi?
True. All right. Well, thank you so much, Edwin Kigoli, youth leader. I'll allow you to go and also enjoy your Eid al-Adha, if at all you are enjoying, as we cross over to a different segment altogether. Remember, today is Friday. It's all about matters entertainment. So we'll only have a bit of, a session on just delving into, the Nairobi politics on a woman's perspective, and also we take a look at briefly what is happening right here on Matters Education as we cross over to Matters Entertainment after this short break. and welcome back to the broadcast. I think it's a holiday, so we're all enjoying right here in studio as we ensure that you're updated. And we also have this kind of discussions. Much as it's a holiday, we always say that we've had a long win courtesy of COVID-19, so life has to move on all the same. So today we're hosting Miss President, or Mrs. President, so to speak. She will tell us which is a which. Honorable Nerea Akech, who's joining us this morning to expound some more on the subjects that I'll have picked. We'll take a look at the Nairobi County tussle that is ongoing, looking at the perspective of, women leadership or women leadership and how best we are handling this, knowing very well that we've seen numerous times that women have been found right at the epicenter of all these struggles that we're talking about. And we ask ourselves as women, where does it place us? What does it speak about the fact that we've been out here trying to push to see to it that, one, we attain the two-thirds gender rule, and two, we also ensure that we empower the women out there to go and take this leadership position, something that has not been there for the longest of time. And we also take a look at the issue of matters education right here in the country, how the Ministry of Education has handled the situation, even as we continue to battle with COVID-19 so far. So welcome on board, Miss President. We lost her. Where the network is trying to act up, but not to worry. She's here and she's back. Good morning, Miss President.
No. I hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, that's good. You're well? Are you well? Seems like the network is not for us this morning. It's probably equally going for the Eid al-Adha celebrations, but not to worry, because I'm sure it's just a minute or so that we were having a very cool conversation. Evidently, we'll be able to fix that. My technical team is on ground ensuring that this is streamlined. But like I said, remember the conversation is about the tussles that is ongoing right here on the leadership in Nairobi. And we ask what way forward, especially for the women leaders. So, Miss President, good morning. What is not happening today? But anyway, just to invite you to call in. The numbers are rolling down on your screen. The SMS short code is 22047. Let's get to hear what you have to say. Some of the comments that you will be dropping, we'll be sampling them as we proceed with the show. It's also that time that you can request for music that you'd want us to play. You remember it's Friday. It's all about matters entertainment. It's also Eid al-Adha. If you have, messages of celebrating this day and wishing our Muslim brothers nothing but the best, we also get the chance to go through them. I already have seen some of you are watching and dropping in the SMSs. Thank you so much for the great feedback, and thank you so much for choosing to stay with TV47. It is important that we get this feedback, and we also get to make you part and parcel of the show as we await for the technical team to fix this. A reminder on what we'll be discussing this morning: the tussle that is ongoing right here in Nairobi in terms of matters leadership wrangles. Question number one, we ask, what does this mean about the leadership of women being at the epicenter or being caught in the center of all these wrangles that have been ongoing in regards to matters politics and supremacy battles right here in the country? And we also take a look at the aspect of education. The BOM teachers now have a reason to smile as the government has decided to cushion them at this time of COVID-19. Madam President, do we have you now?
Yes, I can get you loud and clear.
Much better now. How are you?
I'm good. It's great, and I think as we are very quickly adjusting to our new normal of COVID, and everything that we do is now has to be centered around that.
All right, and of course, well, we're all trying, like you rightfully put it, and we can only hope that at some point in time we'll successfully be able to fight this and win over the fight in whatever capacity. If it means getting a vaccine, if it means that we're in the best of shape, if it means it's the end of the virus, whichever way, we hope that we are going to stay afloat. So coming to the tussle that is ongoing in Nairobi County, first of all, as a nominated member of County Assembly. First of all, what would be your take on how the MCAs are handling this and are dealing with issues at the level of the counties?
Oh, it's, this will be my personal, very experience and MCA. Top of everything else is, number one, this is a highly dynamic political environment. And number two, there's always somebody that is calling the shots politically. And we saw that, Speaker Beatrice Elachi, it had readjusted such that the political environment was capable of ensuring that she comes back. And so that tells you that, all leadership, and not just women leadership, in assemblies depends entirely on political goodwill, especially an assembly that's a mixed assembly like Nairobi. And then the third thing, when I look at the way MCAs handle issues, one of the key the County Assembly Service Board that essentially has MCAs sitting in there as members, that's CEO. So that body in itself is the one that's mandated to direct the activities of the assembly. Mm-hmm. And if that public service board of the county assembly anyway does not heed to the call of MCAs, for example, to balance, committee work, does not heed to the call of the MCAs to balance how MCAs are interacting, with the public and with the community by way of facilitation, then we see a lot of conflict. And most importantly, when MCAs, feel in any way that you have changed your political tune, quote unquote, and you are not supporting the other person, that is outside the assembly, but contributed largely to their being elected or nominated, then, you're gone. But that's not to say that chaos and fights really should be how we are able to speak. That is how we are able to resolve our conflicts. Yeah. It's been unfortunate. I come from one of the county assemblies that has always been in the news for a lot of that physical fighting. Right. But having learned a lot of lessons in terms of leadership last year, the one thing that I would really advise a lot of our speakers is, number one, the way you get into office and the way you come back into office, if you have been ousted, quote unquote, or suffered from negative politics, also determines how you are able to move on. So, a good example is if you come in through somebody negotiating on your behalf with the MCAs, it means if you have fallout, then you stand to have the same MCA stand against you. But I also would like to condemn, police brutality in handling that particular case of Nairobi County Assembly, and not simply because it was a woman MCA who was attacked. It could have happened to even a male MCA. So we are all colleagues. And I think it's important to note that the assembly should not be a place of war. That's critical. But for some reason, it's a political environment that is always subject to machinations and manipulations of war. It's a very unfortunate thing.
Right, indeed, unfortunate, so to speak. But also reminding us of just how, while this clip was circulating, we also heard the clip of the very same MCA, that is Patricia Modeu, sometimes back equally encouraging the police to, be brutal, or in another MCA. And it speaks volumes, first of all, of how hypocritical we can be, or speaks volumes of how double-sided we can be. The politics of, being double-sided is technically what has brought us here today. That today you can support a certain motion because you're on this side, and the next day you oppose it in as much as you see the importance of it, just because you are also on the other side. How do we run away from such?
I tell you, you're right. I looked at that clip. I looked at that post. It's gone viral on social media. And I can tell you, that is the politics of assemblies. That is the politics, even at the National Assembly and at the Senate. And we have seen it playing out all the time. If you call political shots, the next time, you're changing. And that's why you see county assemblies, majority leader has been ousted, a member of the service board has been ousted, minority leader has been ousted. It's primarily for the very fact that, the ideology is lacking, or every member of county assembly bends to somebody else's ideology and not their own. And I think the way forward that I could propose is for, members of that county assembly who are really thinking, just remove themselves, from that bondage and act independently. I think that will change the landscape. I mean, it's you will risk being removed from committees. You will risk not getting your travels approved. But I think in terms of building your character, and in terms of staying true to what you believe in, that is the way forward. Otherwise, we'll keep having wrangles, because a lot of principles, quote unquote, have different agendas and interests at different times. It's not going to change. That's the reality. So as an individual, I have to choose where I would like to stand, so that I don't keep shifting. And I think even the public would cease to be on your side when they see you speaking from two sides of your mouth. It doesn't speak very well. And I've learned enough lessons over the last 1-2 years to tell me that that's firmly what should happen.
All right. First, we go back to the Constitution and what is enshrined inside there, and what it envisaged in terms of, ensuring that a devolution is a success. MCAs were pretty much the heartbeat of, the success of devolution, instrumental for that matter, because they are the people who are direct, or the leaders who are directly connected to the people on the ground. And looking at how, first of all, the MCAs have dealt with issues, one, commendable at some point in time, but equally coming out to just show the picture of the kind of people that we voted in. One, would you confidently say that a majority of MCAs get into power knowing what it is that they are getting themselves into, understanding very well how the streams of power operate, or they just get there and it's as good as guesswork, like everyone else is guessing of what next on matters COVID-19? I mean, do they even get time to understand what exactly it is that, being an MCA entails? Well, I can tell you one thing from my personal experience, that you will have to, cohort the MCAs into two. The first group are the ones who are getting into the assembly for the first time. And now that we have 2017-2022 cohort, the ones who are in their second term in the assembly. And when you get into the assembly at the first time, of course, you get trainings on your role. You'll get trainings on everything else apart from how to learn to balance the politics of the assembly. And now for the second what shots they need to call and what strings they need to pull to get their way, because there's also a lot about who is in control of the most powerful committees, the budget committee, who is in control of the finance committee. So a lot of it is, they will get to determine because they need. So it means that they will utilize their experience, quote unquote, and seniority to align the first term MCAs towards something that would probably be most beneficial to them. And by the time the first time MCAs realize that, okay, we have been heard, then you see a lot of them pulling an about turn and saying, no, we need to do things a different way. And that means that the MCAs who are in their second terms definitely have a lot of the executive on their side, and that means they could actually negotiate for
positions, they could negotiate for situations that would make it untenable for those who are opposing them to thrive in that environment. And one of the things that, that we have been lobbying for as MCAs through our forums is to have an independent financial channel, and that's one of the challenges that we do have, because all county assemblies actually request and receive their money from the county executive, and that's where the biggest problem is, because you have to play the tune, and there has to be an MCA linking the assembly to the county executive, and a lot of those MCAs are MCAs who are in their second term, and you can imagine how powerful they can be. Essentially, they have capacity to paralyze.
Well, there's a bit of a hiccup there, but all the same, I hope you're able to hear me. Then I'll ask, just how much power do the nominated members of parliament, the nominated members of county assembly have towards also, having a voice on the issues that are happening within the county, are happening, of course, within the country at large? And unfortunately, we're not able to connect to Mrs. President, but I hope she'll get back to us and also tell us more. Being a nominated member of parliament, we'd love to know how much of a say they have, especially in such issues that take center stage at the levels of the county and the county assembly, in discussing issues, in weighing in on crucial matters, and how much they have pushed the agenda towards ensuring that things are streamlined or activities are streamlined within the county assemblies. So this is what we're discussing this morning. We're taking a look at the tussle of Nairobi in terms of matters leadership, expounding it a little bit further to different counties across the country on how, of course, the members of county assembly have been dealing with issues, and that factor of women being involved and being in the center stage, whether as victims or perpetrators of the issues that we've been witnessing of late. And we ask, what does it speak about the leadership of the women? What does it speak about the leadership of the youth? And later on, we'll also be touching on matters education. Just take a look at what exactly is happening right here as we deal with COVID-19 and trying to figure out what the fate of our students will be. Just the other day, Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha declaring that campuses, that is universities, tertiary level education systems, and also technical institutes would be allowed to reopen in September in the event that they are able to set up their institutions to the standards where they can deal with COVID-19, or they can abide by what it is that the Ministry of Health has set up as guides to take us through COVID-19. But again, yesterday coming out to declare that none of them has been able, or very few of them have been able to extensively manage to set up these structures to that level, hence pushing the Ministry of Health to declaring also that this is not going to be the case again, and schools will not reopen in 2020, and pushed that to 2021, raising lots of reactions from across Kenyans, from across different parts of the country, as Kenyan students sort of feeling disappointment, and others feeling like, yes, this is probably what we would have done. This was the right thing to do. So we just want to understand how this has been received, and what is Mrs. President's view in regards to this move, and how Magoha has handled the issues on matters education, even as we ensure that at least our students are well catered for. Lots of issues coming on board yesterday in regards to streamlining this sector. Amongst them, the BOM teachers are now smiling now that they've gotten funds to cushion them at this time of COVID-19. And private teachers equally eagerly waiting to see what it is that the government has in store for them. And all this in a bid to streamline matters education and ensure that we protect our very own youths. I invite you to be part of this discussion as we wait to get a hold of Mrs. President again 22047 is the SMS, short code 0768095491. The numbers to call. You can call us live, or you can drop a message on our social media pages, and I'll be here to get to sample them. So let's take that a short break, and we come back hoping that we'll be able to get a hold of Honorable Nerea Akech.